Okay, just got back from shopping. Been to Jaycar because I've got a little job for a neighbour who's got a solar powered or solar charged electric gate, like a farm gate, but of course it's only got a fairly small solar panel. Turns out it's only got a couple of like 4 ampere hour batteries in it, two 12 volts in series to make 24, and of course they're down in the bush a bit, not much light getting through in winter, down below a cliff and everything, as well as the trees around it, so they want a way to actually get this thing to run in the winter. It's quite a long way away from the house and 240 volt power, so I suggested using one of these like portable battery packs, and we're actually going to upgrade and put bigger batteries in it as well. And then this has got like the Anderson connectors, so we can just make it so this plugs into the gate unit. The solar panel will still try and charge them, but they can easily unplug it from the Anderson plug from that, take it into the house or the garage or somewhere, and use a external charger and just plug. Again, I'll put an Anderson plug on that, so it just plugs into this, charges the batteries, and then hopefully it'll go for a week or 2 or 3, who knows, just on that charge. And then when it goes flat again, they can soon grab it and take it back up to the house. It's actually got voltage meters and USB ports and everything on this box. Supposedly they are fairly weatherproof, so not waterproof they said, but like as in on a boat or something, if you submerge it, it's going to fill up with water. But they reckon it'll be alright out in the weather, and maybe you could seal up around these meters and USB ports, and I think there's a cigarette lighter socket there if you're really worried. But I think we'll just get this thing going for these people, and they can keep an eye on it when they take it up to charge. I'll get them to keep an eye and see if any water's getting in there. It might, up here it's pretty cold, so it may get some condensation in it. So I had plenty of these on display at Jaycar, so I had a look at it there. There we go, so I've got a little voltage meter which is handy. Dual USB, a 2.1 and 1 amp. Reset off, I'm not sure if that's for the batteries. Then yeah, standard car cigarette lighter. 2 Anderson plugs, only need 1, and we've also got these terminals here. Looks like they've actually got some sort of plastic over them, which is a good idea, so that probably comes off. Oh, there you go. So I might not bother connecting to that, but you could actually use it as a, I think the idea of these a lot of times you put it in your SUV, 4-wheel drive, ute, whatever, or in your boat, and you've got a spare battery pack to run accessories, or potentially you can hook up onto these and or put a couple of jumper leads with clip. If you took those plastic bits off, you could just clip a couple of jumper leads on and help to jump start your car or whatever. This does have a couple of holes in the side here, maybe. Or are they just saying there are holes in it? Oops. Where'd that little bag go? I reckon these bits actually screw onto those. Yeah, they look like the right spacing. Not sure what they actually are. I guess we'll. Oh, that's what. There's another strap for the outside, I think. Oh, that's to hold it shut. Oh, so that's what it is for. It's for the strap. Battery box with accessories. Batteries up to 100 ampere hour. Dual 50 amp Andersons. 12 volt cigarette. Dual USB. LED voltmeter. Circuit breaker switch. Oh, so maybe that's what that is. Also have a look how it's wired up. Would be the next good thing to do. So you've got your 2 Andersons here, which go of course to that negative terminal. They also go to the positive. The positive of the battery goes to the positive, negative. So those, that's all unfused so far. I'm wondering whether I shouldn't put a fuse in this, but that switch slash circuit breaker, if it is a circuit breaker as well, just goes to those accessory parts. I must check whether the unit does have an actual fuse in it. I assume it would already have one in there somewhere, because I don't want to be responsible if something goes pear-shaped. Now these are going to be the wrong connectors for the batteries I've got anyway. We're going to need to use a much heavier cable than we need. Okay, besides the battery box, I bought a couple of other things. Got a couple of cable glands here. That's just to get some wire into the actual existing box with the controller in it. And it should be, yeah, I've got a couple of meters of cable here. Just reasonable duty. What does it say it's good for? 15 amp auto marine twin power cable. So that should do the job here. The cable that everything's currently wired up with is even smaller than that. So it's not going to be pulling any more current. Even if we have bigger batteries, they'll just last longer basically. This stuff can be a bit of a mongrel to strip from memory. Sometimes you have to split it up the middle, this outer sheath. Been a while since I've used any of this stuff. But yeah, great wiring for accessories in cars and stuff. Oops, I've done a bit of damage to that, but that's all it's got in it. Interesting, it's red and white, not red and black, but doesn't make much difference. It always used to be red and black, that cable. And we've got a couple of these Anderson connectors. PT4427, I was told those were the ones. They've got smaller, I think, crimped things here, but you can also solder to it if you need to. So it's definitely big enough to go into this cable. I don't actually have a crimping tool. I might have some sort of crimping tool that will do these, but I may even just end up soldering to it. Probably need to strip a bit more off if you're going to crimp it. Yeah, that would take one of those serious crimping tools, because these are pretty thick copper. So I might even just solder them on just to make it easier. And the beauty is you can then reuse them again if you need to. If someone breaks the cord off or something, you can just solder it back on rather than being stuck with something that's crimped and you've got to go and pay another $10 or something for a new one. And I think these are basically genderless type connectors, like no matter how, like they only go one particular way because of the shape of these bits. So you can't get your positive and negative mixed up. But it doesn't matter whether you use these as a plug or socket. I think they mate together regardless, because yeah, they don't sell them as plugs and sockets. So I think these pins just hook together. Yeah, probably either way you put them, they can mate like that. They can mate like that. Same on the other side. So quite a clever design, that. But yeah, I've never actually used Anderson plugs for anything. But they are the go for this sort of stuff. And we've got a SLA battery charger, which does up to 24 volts, because I'm going to need it for 24 volts. I'm not sure if this is actually switchable or does it auto detect. Again, never seen one in my life other than on the Jaycar website before. Polarity red, black, blah blah blah. It doesn't have a switch on it, I don't think. We've got a figure 8 power cord. We'll just replace that with an Anderson plug. Specs. Before charging, read the instructions. Well, I am reading the instructions, you don't need to tell me that. Lead acid batteries only. Just the usual safety stuff. Don't disassemble it, blah 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 blah. During charging, battery must be placed in a well ventilated area. So we've already determined we've got good ventilation on this box, which they would have to have. I guess the one hassle is it's going to get a few spiders and stuff in there. Might have to put some mesh over those or something. Connect the plus and minus, don't touch them to each other. Auto voltage detect. Auto adjust to accommodate either 6, 12 or 24 volt rechargeable lead acid. One battery per charge. Well, if they're in series it should be the same thing. Red light, proper charging. Green light, battery gets fully charged. And if you use flashing red, short circuit, reverse polarity or battery voltage is too low to charge. Takes about 18 hours to charge 6, 12 or 24 volt, 12 ampere hour. So these are like going to be I think they're 7 ampere hours. Or 7.5 was it? 7.2. So that's our batteries. We did open one up just to check. It's got reasonable sized terminals on it, because the other thing I bought were, I do have some I think, but got a little pack of these anyway. It's only $2 something I think. And yeah, well, he said they're the right size for that cable. I think they just are. They're looking a little tight there, but what I'll have to do is make a joint onto these. I might even just remove, I was thinking I'll just pull pull the original cables off where they go up to those terminals, and we'll just use a bit of this figure 8 cable to go from our batteries with spade terminals on one end. That can go up to these terminals. I'll probably have to put a new eyelet on there or something. I should have some of those somewhere. And I'll have to make a jumper lead from one battery to the other so that we get them in series basically. Can never find a knife when you need it. I guess scissors will have to do. So with these we're going to have to go positive, negative on one of them. Diamec, non-spillable. I should have stuff there. Sealed. Lead electrodes, corrosive sulfuric acid, so they're the proper things. Cycle use 14.4 to 15 volt for voltage charge. Standby 13.5 to 13.8. Initial current less than 2.16 amps. Do not incinerate, etc. So these can just sit next to each other. We can join those two together, and then we've got a lead from each of those with a spade terminal up to the box. Then it's just a matter of putting an Anderson lead on a bit of this up to go into their other box, and I'll have to hook onto what it would have spade terminals in their other box, I would assume. Pretty sure she said it's got the same two 12 volt batteries, but they're only the half size ones. And yeah, I'll have to hook onto those leads. I might just use some automotive crimp connectors that bite into the original leads so we can leave the original spade terminals there, or maybe sometimes those spade terminals you can even slide two of them together. I don't think I've got any of the male ones, but that's another option. I don't know what size the ones are in there either, because I think you've got 6.4s as standard, and these ones even might be the 4.6 wide ones. They look a bit more than 4 mils though. And I've just got to take these leads off here, or these alligator clips, and put those into an Anderson plug, so then I can just take the box up to the house, plug the charger in. When that's finished, pull it out, carry it back down, or take it back down the car I guess, sit it next to the unit and just plug the Anderson lead that'll be on the end of this plug in, and that'll plug the whole system into that. The solar cells, when they're got light, we'll put the charge current back down into this box. Obviously it'll take longer to charge bigger batteries, but if that is charging, that'll keep them topped up. They're not going to get much this time of year where they are. And that's about all there is to it. So there's plenty of room in this box. Maybe the only other thing I have to do is make sure these batteries are in some way strapped down, or at least taped together. Because if it's going to be moved around, you don't want these sliding around and eventually it'll break the connections or something. Maybe just some polystyrene or some wood or something in there just to jam them in. I think I might just tape the two of them together. I wonder if I can use those holes they got there already, but somehow we'll have to just get them to stay in there a bit better. Don't want them sliding around all over the place. Might even be able to I just wonder if I can just cut a piece of chipboard or something to the shape of the box with a hole for these. That's probably enough even, just to stop them moving around, as long as it doesn't get too wet in there. But something like that, I'll work something out, and that should do the job. So yeah, just a matter of putting various connectors on things. I guess I better maybe get the box done first, and we'll worry about the charger. And what does it say here? Not a lot to accessories or equipment. And to accessories or equipment through the Andersons. Yeah, I think they'll be fine just lifting that on the outside there, as long as they got that bit of plastic so nothing can fall on there and short them. They'll probably, well, I hope they won't rust over time, but might corrode a bit. And where's our Anderson plug? Get it the right way around. No, so they're basically a mirror of each other kind of thing. But that's not going to go in because that's got its little spring bits there until I put the... Oh yeah, so they slide along those... Looks like this little bit comes along and slides along, and then eventually that little notch there clips over the sprung bit, and then it can't pull out again. No doubt with a bit of work with a screwdriver, yeah, you can easily press on the edge because they're wider and just release them back. I guess I could have technically saved $10 and probably recycled one of those and sealed the holes up or something, but anyway, we won't modify the box if we don't have to. Won't have to have a spare connector anyway, probably, because if one plays up or a branch falls on it and breaks it or something, at least we've got a second one. Yeah, that should do the job. We've got quite big nuts on these bits. Probably voids the warranty too by playing with it, but I don't really have much choice. Other than to undo these and remove the original cables because they're too big to go into the Anderson plugs, and I don't have a battery with terminals on it, and of course they don't have any 24 volt batteries. I guess the other option would have been to buy, I don't know if they even make a small truck battery that would fit in here with 24 volts, probably not. Jaycar do. The guy I talked to at Jaycar originally said this meter should read up to 24 volts, alright, so that's another thing we've got to find out. So that'll be, hopefully he's correct, because most of those meters you can buy them on eBay and stuff. I think the same little LED meters or something very similar, and they usually go up to about 30 volts I think, and down below 6. So you'd think they'd put something in here that wasn't just, I mean it is a digital meter so its scale shouldn't be limited. I guess the other option is, do I disconnect the other Anderson plug, but I don't think there's much point because they can just hook to whichever one they want. That gets them out of the way. I could disconnect all these. Well, I don't want to disconnect the other accessories because we want the meter to work, I think. At least they can always, if they think it's getting low, they can always press the, what do you have to press? Oh, maybe you've got to press that on. That's probably what you do. Switch that on, that should, well, I guess we can find out if I just hook up my power supply here. We might as well learn some stuff. Problem is I just disconnected the cables that were easy to connect to. No, that won't matter. We can soon hook to these eyelets and stuff. Hopefully. Oh, here we go. I'm only down at 5 volts. So it goes to show it does. Yeah, it looks like this will go well up to 24 volts. I won't push it too much higher than that. And if we turn that off, yeah, we're not wasting any power running the meter or anything. Don't know how long that switch is going to last out in the weather, but they reckon they're reasonably weatherproof. And it's a bit slow to boot up that little voltage meter. Yeah, that could be the one weak spot, I guess, that switch. But we'll find out. And the other thing I was going to do is we're going to mount the strap on this thing. So it does come somewhat unassembled. I'll put the strap. Noisy plastic. It's one of the, oh no, it does have the separate piece there. So is it, how does that work? Do you just shove that in there and, whoop. Well, I guess they've got to have that off so you can run it through these bits. And yeah, that is going to be the interesting thing around here, is whether, the other thing that could be a worry is whether mice and rats can get in there, I guess. Yeah, these things just simply go on like that by the look of it. And a couple of countersunk screws through. Like so, and a couple of nuts on the inside. So that's another reason to keep these batteries locked in place, is you don't want them banging into these nuts sticking out the side. I don't think the screws really come through them, but if you get too much friction and stuff, you might wear holes through the side of the batteries or something, which would not be good. Don't know that they're going to be moving it that much, but you just, anything that people can move in a portable sense, you've got to lock everything down in it. You've got to assume the worst for friction and metal fatigue on wires and stuff, and just lock everything down so there's no chance of things rubbing through or wires fraying through. Because over time people will manage to ruin things by just the amount of use of moving around, not through their own roughness or anything, it's just what happens. So yes, there's a slight bit of assembly required here. But literally they'll be easy enough to open up again. Actually, maybe you don't need this because it does have latches on it. Yeah, okay. I thought they had some sort of latches. For some reason I missed that when I saw the strap. So maybe the strap's an extra... Well, I've got to fill those holes in there anyway. I don't really want them there. Batteries being installed. Do not use the upper handle to carry both sides of the grooves. Oh, now you tell me. So it's got a handle on it, but you're not meant to carry it by the handle. I guess with a large battery in there, that may well be the case, because a big lead acid battery weighs a fair bit. Do these have to go a particular way on top? I don't know. I guess we want it kind of looking like that probably. I thought they were saying these must be these end handles that are under the things. Okay, so I'll spread this through, see what the story is with this strap. Of course, you've got to work out how to actually attach these things. I always forget how to do these things. Does it go through and back under or something? Nope. Hang on, does it go? I think I know how you... I know. Oh, wait, do we go over and back under or something? No, we can't do that either, I don't think. It's to do with... You come in... over that thing, back under and over or something. Except it's on backwards that way. Oh, maybe not. Isn't there a way of getting that back? Oh, do you lip it back under there or something? That might be it. No, that doesn't really work either. Be nice if they gave you some instructions for it. Well, that's not going anywhere, is it? Although now I've got the problem of you've got to get the length right. Maybe that's just it, you just do it like that. Although obviously we've got to put the top on it. So I might need to change the length again a bit. Yeah, need a little bit more. Close. Well, this idea is you put that, pull that bit back out, get it right, and then like so. Unclip it, keeping that in place, and then we fold it back up through there. So I think that's the idea of it. They are saying you should possibly do it, carry it there. That doesn't make it easy to get to either. But don't think these batteries are that heavy. Let's see if we can lock these ends up. They just come up and that's it. They must clip on better than that. Yeah, that's it, they just kind of clip on. Doesn't feel like they've latched that tightly, but it's certainly good to have a safety precaution with a strap, I guess. And that is quite heavy, but yeah, I don't think there's going to be any problem lifting it with that handle. In this particular case, still quite a few kilos there. I'd be interested to know what they weigh. But yeah, it's quite convenient to carry around. Easy to get into. Get rid of that. So I'm just going to have to make a bit of cable. It's only a short loop there at least. I can't remember if you can split this with a knife easily. I get a feeling you can actually cut through one side reasonably well. At least enough to rip it. Well, I've damaged the insulation there, but we can soon just use that as the bit we want. Make a little bit of length just so it's easier to work with. Now, like I said, these Jaycar connectors he gave me are going to be quite right. They do look a that tad small to me, but I don't know, they're just perfect, I think. Beautiful. And they even match the colour of the wire. How pretty. Nice to get everything colour coordinated. Okay, now I've got to find my crimp tool. I guess I can probably use the back of the pliers on these even. Not sure how. I like to use my Utilux crimp tool. That will probably do it, by the feel of that. Sometimes these electrical pliers do the job no problem. You want to make sure these are pretty good. Yeah, they feel fine, so we're going to have to just connect them like that. Negative to positive. And that gives us a series battery, which should give us a nice 24 volts across the outer terminals. A little bit higher because it's charged and no load. Beautiful. So then I've got to replace these two cables. There's no real way of hooking them on, is there? And we'll just toss them to one side. Well, how long were they? Not sure we even need to be. Well, I guess we need enough length that I can lift this lid. Those batteries attached to the bottom, that's why they would be that long. Is you've got to consider getting the lid off. Even there somewhere around the middle like that. And we've got our, I guess you can sort of flip this up. We've got our terminals. Oops. That is a pretty good length. Just make sure I don't short anything out of here. Yeah, they're pretty good. And from the other one to there, yeah, I think we'll copy the manufacturer's lengths. That's why I bought a bit extra of this cable than what I thought I needed. cut that back off to where I've already stripped it to. Only problem is we really want two completely separate bits of wire, don't we? That's what it would have been nice if they were red and black, but anyway. Close enough's good enough. Can we actually tear this cable after we cut it? So yeah, we can. Always nice when you can just don't have to cut it the full length. So we want roughly the length of those, which is there. And get a white wire. Pile this nice new cable and then destroy it. Get rid of the sheath. And then it's just a matter of stripping these. We'll fit a spade connector again to each end. This is where colour coding would be nice, but I guess we can always put a bit of black on this afterwards. Could always spray paint it or something. Put black tape over it. Wrong way round. Does it come through far enough? They actually need quite a length of stripped cable, I think, to get right to the end. I always like to see them hit the go through the crimp connector and hit the little end bit, which these ones have. Some don't, but as long as you want to see it come out the other end, just to make sure you're right in there. Yeah, this has got a little stopper thing, but we're up against it, so that's all that matters. So that one. Get rid of polystyrene. So yeah, need around 10 mils stripped off, maybe a little bit less. Yeah, make sure you can see it, like I say, through that hole. To make sure you are actually crimping onto the wire and not onto empty space sort of thing. That should be fine. Yeah, probably the best way to test it is try pulling it off by the wire, and if the wire doesn't come out, I think we're crimped on pretty well. Yeah, so now we just need the, get it back off the batteries. Don't work on them while they're on the batteries, other than just to check occasionally that things are where you want them, because if you short them out or anything, chances are if you just drop them down or something, the bare ends are bound to touch or something and short out the batteries. It's just the way it works. And I think I've got a couple of suitable eyelets. Some old, I think I found some old ones for car phones and stuff that went on car batteries. I did have plenty of these. Yeah, they're about the same size, so I could have saved myself. Anyway, the customer can pay for them. Not the end of the world. And I was thinking with inside the other unit, I might use these sort of three-way. You just shove one of the continuous wires in, poke your new wire in. So for the other end of that figure eight, when it goes up into their existing box, and where there's a couple of, it's going to have a couple of leads like this that go into the existing batteries. I guess in theory I could have made the jumper wire off their existing batteries, assuming it must have one in there. But I'd actually prefer to leave the box so that everything in there is original, other than me adding a connection to a couple of wires to it. So if you use something like this, someone can always just snip your wire off and then use the original spade terminals to fit original batteries back in there. And yeah, if I do that, I'll just then have to put some tape or something over the original spade thing so they can't possibly short. But that's the kind of way to do it. These are almost the same size, they're actually identical, but they got the nice little thin bit to go into this type of wire. So again, make sure it's sort of coming out the other end. I should really get my proper Uniworks tool if I can find it, since it cost me a fortune and took like months to get one of these things. I actually prefer these because these do a really nice deep crimp and you can use these other bits just to finish it off. You can be absolutely sure that that has got that thing squashed right in there. It's just a beautiful positive thing. I've never come across a better tool for doing these things. And I used to do quite a lot of automotive ones, like with car phone installs and stuff, and I wish I had one of those tools back then, but I didn't even know they existed then. I can't remember who I saw. Was it another installer or someone told me about these, and I'd ordered it through George Harvey Electric as it was back then, which is long gone now, and I think it took months to get one, and I think it was up around $100. What is it? Ulux tool number 00. Getting a bit rusty now. I should give it a bit of a clean up. Ulux crimp lugs 0.5 to 10mm squared. So I guess that's just their particular ones that you want to use. So there we have it. Again, I won't go hooking all this up until I get those eyelets mounted, because we don't want to go shorting things out here. Having bits of bare metal hanging off batteries is never a good idea. But put our white one on the negative, get that washer back off. Oops. Come on. Try and get these lugs so they all fit on nicely on top of each other. And yeah, make sure you do everything up super tight, because you don't want high resistance. Even though this gate opener obviously doesn't draw an awful lot of current, probably a couple of amps or something while it's running, if that, you still don't want any high resistance joints or anything like this, because it's a massive fire hazard with high amperage batteries. And especially if it's going to be out in the weather and stuff, even more reason to make sure that everything is making a good contact, because if these are all nice and tight, the weather probably won't get in between them. It might corrode all the outside of everything, but it shouldn't get right inside the connections and cause any mischief. Not for a long time anyway. Oops, that should go the other way around, I think. Just to get the flat part of the eyelet on top of the others and the wire on the outer. Not that important, but it saves anything bending against anything else. And yeah, it's a bit of fiddling around, but having a pre-built box is a lot better than trying to make your own one like you would have had to in the past. So it's great, you can just walk in and buy these things now. In the old days you'd have to find some box to adapt. Probably some old metal one that's going to rust out in the weather. Or maybe go to the hardware store and find some plastic box or something that it's probably made for home decor use or something, and or maybe like a inspection thing for water pipe valves or something, and modify one of those sort of boxes. Pretty good one, and for about $70 you get the whole thing already made, complete with voltage meters and everything. And kind of the idea with this is I don't want to change this box in case they end up wanting to use it for camping or some other purpose. I don't think they will, these particular people, but you never know, things might change. So they originally went through this cable tie. I can probably pull that cable tie a bit tighter. I don't know if I really want to do that, but anyway, let's just do it for now. And see if they still reach the batteries. And yeah, the main problem, probably the hardest part of this job, is going to be working out how to how to stop those batteries sliding around. So that's a positive. I think I probably should have kept that outside of that cable tie. Can I fit it back through or not? Probably not. Okay, looks like we're going to have to snip that. I guess what I can do is put new cable ties, because really you probably want some cable ties so that if someone pulls this open, I mean they'll probably just pull off the batteries I guess, but there's no chance of them pulling on this and ripping them off. Yeah, probably need a cable tie each end sort of thing. So I might put, if I put 2 cable ties in, don't know if it's even really worth it, but it won't hurt. Always pays to do a professional job. Again, you've got to think about people who are going to be messing with this aren't used to electrical stuff and could be a bit rough on it, and it's just accidental. It's easy enough for anyone to open up something they're not familiar with and yank on cables and stuff. So best to think about the mechanical side. I probably shouldn't cut them off because then they've got sharp edges on them. But that's all hooked up. Got our meter sitting on 25.7. So we've got our batteries hooked up right. And that kind of concludes the battery box side of things. Yeah, it definitely really wants to be opened that particular way, because if you open it the wrong way you are stretching on the cables a bit. But at least that kind of stops someone going too hard on it. I probably should have made that negative cable a bit longer in a perfect world, but that allows people to get access fine. So now I've got to set up the Anderson leads. So just going to have a quick look. Let's cut that open a bit more. I'm not sure how much you need for one of these Andersons, and the other problem is, can you sort of clamp the cable on these Andersons? I think they're just held by the crimped on bit. I don't know if that Utilux tool, I've lost one of the crimpy bits. There it is. Let's see, if they push right up in there, that bit's going to be sitting in there somewhere. So we need enough cable sort of spread. So it's getting close, I guess. Probably a little bit more, I think. This is kind of the hassle about not knowing these particular plugs, is how much do you strip, how much length do you need, and how do you make a neat job of it. I mean, it's only out in a paddock, but still the charger part's indoors, you want it to look the part. Well, the charger's already got its own cable on it, so that's, I don't have much choice on that one. So I want this when it's in. Oh, there's screws just to hold it here, like on the other end of the chassis, so we don't need to worry about that. I think that's around the right length. It's just, there's no real way. One thing I didn't really think about is how do you tidy up the outer part of it, because again you've got to remember people are moving these things and potentially going to pull on the wire rather than the plug. I'm tempted to try that tool, but these are really, I think, the ratchet type. Did it show something? I think it did show something in the little bit of paper. I think you need the ratchet type crimp tools, no doubt. Use appropriate reducing bushings for smaller cable sizes. Pneumatic bench tool requires specific dial locators for each contact being crimped. That's for a bench one, but they probably are made for something like that. Qualified electrician. I don't need a qualified electrician for 24 volts. Standard copper wire, crimp tools. Design performance of connector soil wires, alternate or tools not recommended by. This is a couple of different types of tool. Oh, so I think they're just saying don't use an aluminium tool with copper. I don't know. Oh, of course, that's because these are copper. Maybe it's probably hasn't got the strength to do a copper strip cable. Oh, we've got some dimensions here. crimper solder, push connection cable housing, notch tongue, owned over spring. Oh, so they do tell us in inches and millimeters. What series is this? SB50. You need 14 millimeters. $14mm? That's not right. Or is that the, oh, that's just the stripped part, which I'm somewhere around there, 10 to 14. That one's probably about 14, that's probably about 10. Doesn't tell you how much back of the actual thing, but that probably doesn't matter. I wonder if I should try. I don't think Mr. Utilux is going to be up to the job, but it could be. How soft is this copper is the question. Oh, I think it's doing something. It's biting in, but I don't think it's gonna, yeah, it's not gonna go the full way, I don't think. So we'll try the soldering iron and see what that does. Okay, I just got one on, and it was, yeah, went on rather simple. So it's just a matter of tinning up your wire, as you always have to do when soldering it. And then I've got to put this on something like this box so it doesn't melt the carpet or anything, but you just put your soldering iron tip in there and get it heated up a bit, and you can start applying some solder, and it tins up rather well. It does take quite a bit of heat to get this hot. Not really a job for this little soldering station in a way, but it gets there. And then of course you drop your cable, which doesn't make life easy. Then it's really just a matter of getting that cable in there and getting some more heat into that, and shoving a bit more solder in while you're at it. And probably the biggest hassle is it just takes quite a while. I need a bit more solder on that. It takes quite a while to actually cool down again, so that I can actually let go of it. Oops, that's moved. Come on. But at least you can remake these if you need to. Might even need to add some solder to that, but if you do move it, you really need to redo it so you're not getting a cold solder joint. Just got to wait like a minute or something for it to set, while trying not to move it any great amount. Yeah, they're all filled up, so you want to see that pretty well filled up with solder, at least at this end. It's probably not filled all the way. They're still going to be pretty hot, I reckon. And it's actually gone down inside this cable. Made that a bit stiff, but do these have to go around the same way? Possibly they do. And I think it's just a matter of which bit does it clip under. Does it matter, that piece? I think we just shove them through like, oh, that doesn't look right there. They look like they should go that way. Oh yeah, that is correct, because that little bit on the underside, it actually comes up over the, so yeah, you have they're closer to one side of this round bit. That's the bit that slides along the bottom. And I guess we can use a screwdriver or something to drive that home. Maybe. Are we in place? Oh yeah, it's coming along. Don't know how hard you have to press these in, but probably fairly hard, I would think. Oh wait, I better make sure I get the polarity right. So the other thing, I have the negative in the negative hole. Usually there's a 50-50 chance of getting it right, and 100% of the time you get it wrong. So luck's on our side today. That's it, just push it down like that. It's just a matter of aiming it for the hole. Make sure it's heading the right way. And they pop in rather easy, and like that. Definitely got positive there. I can test all this beforehand anyway. That's the only thing I was worried about, is we've got this kind of length of cable. It's not going to go anywhere, I don't think. Ideally, I'm just wondering if I don't, that's hooked to the battery, so I've got to be a bit careful here with the other end of the wire, make sure nothing's shorted, because I'm about to hook in. I'm just wondering if I can't sort of cable tie it to this bit or something would be perfect. They really need a rubber boot or something to put on them. Or can I can still put a cable tie in there maybe. Let's get it off the battery before I fiddle with it anymore. Can we sort of somehow... You can sort of cable tie one bit there. How do you get both of them there? Or maybe if I do it like that or something, can I sort of... Guess I'm just going to have to experiment to find out. And then you got the problem with the cable tie having a sharp bit on it where people are going to put their hands, but yeah, I reckon if we do something like that. That's actually probably perfect, really. Just as long as I don't do it so tight, because we're folding one cable over. Yeah, I think that's alright. I just like things like this to be mechanically super good, knowing what people can break. I'll just have to try and cut that little sharp bit off there, I think. Or at least take the edges off it. That's not too bad. Yeah, that's pretty good. So now I can plug it into the main fence unit. Got enough cable left here, I can just strip that off and hook it to the other battery connectors and put a gland around it, and that should seal all that up. Those glands don't exactly seal up the best by the look of it, but I might have to put a bit of silicone in there just to make it extra weatherproof and vermin proof, because around here in the bush there are spiders and things everywhere and they infest everything. And you've got to watch out for rodents, especially at this woman's house where there's lots of chickens and stuff being fed and horses, and that's what worries me most about these holes, is a mouse could get in there quite easily, and mice like getting in things and chewing on stuff. So let's, before we do anything, hook that up and make sure we've got our 24 volts, the right polarity here, because we don't want to plug into their thing and blow that up. Guess I should strip these, but can I just get into the ends? Yep. Yeah, that's not much good, is it? 25 volts with the positive on the red wire. Always pays to double check it, even though you can see it with your own eyes that it should be right. Don't trust it, just in case. Don't think I've ever caught myself about to blow something up, but one day I will. I'm not getting any younger, so I'm bound to get dodgier as I get older, I guess. Especially when you don't do this stuff for a while, you can lose the knack of it a bit. And it's the same process with this. Yeah, nice long lead on this charger. It's probably almost 2 meters of that. So that's perfect. And we'll just snip them off, put an Anderson plug on again if I can find where I put the other one. It was here a second ago, but of course it's behind this battery box no doubt. Yeah. Out you come. So just with the same process. Oh, these are already soldered. What on earth have we got here? That's got like a single steel pin. What on earth? I hope these have got standard sort of, yeah, standard copper wire in there, that's alright. And basically the same process, tin it, tin the plug. Actually, one thing I might do with these, because this is a thinner wire, should have done that before I soldered it, but anyway, I'll tin it. I can just get the plastic off. I'm going to loop them over, make them fit in that thing a bit better. Not that it'll make the wire any stronger at this end, but at least it will fit in there nicely. Let's just put it on a bit of paper or something. Get plenty of solder on the iron. Oh, that touched the other bit of wire, didn't I? Yeah, that's tinning. Guess I should go right around the inside. That's probably what I should have done with the other ones. Spin the soldering iron around a bit. Let's put a heap more solder on this bit as well. And plenty on the iron. And heat the whole lot up. So that we should get a good connection. It's all full of solder nicely. Oh, it was. Okay, so I've got the plug soldered onto this, onto the charger that is, so we'll just check that we got it the right way around. Assuming the side did come up with a light before, but of course by the time I've got it hooked up, we got nothing there. I thought it was just going to sit there with a green light. Of course, impossible to make a good connection to these things. Pulsing a bit. Obviously whatever's in there didn't discharge, I take it. Probably gotta wait. Yeah, still running. Wait for the filter cap in the switch mode primary to die. Oh, come on, hurry up people. Oh, it's gone up in voltage. And we finally died, I think. Yeah. Let's turn it on again. Oh, we've got a red light, no voltage out. Before it went green. And it just sits there. But it looks like it's positive anyway, so that's a good sign. So I guess I'm going to risk hooking it up to the battery. Well, it can't go that way, I hope, because so these basically go upside down to go in here, because they're positives on that side. Oh, we got a red light. Guess I better check that this is... Oh, I guess I can actually hook it up into the other battery as a point. And we should... I mean, this charger's meant to flash if something's wrong anyway, but whether it really knows... Well, I guess as soon as it touched the battery it would know. Yeah, we're up to... Of course, cable's in the way everywhere, but 29 odd volts. So that's quite a bit above 24 volts, that's for sure. Can't see the multimeter very well anyway, but it's just over 29 volts, 29.02, so you might as well say 29, but at least that is charging, correct polarity. So that's all good. I guess the other thing I can do is switch this on and see what the little voltmeter is saying, which is 29 volts. Good if the camera can actually see it, I guess. There we go, 29.1. So I might just leave that running a little bit, make sure nothing goes bang or anything. And yeah, that's the other cable. So everything's done basically at this end. I just need those little glands. Well, better check. No, taking that off doesn't achieve anything of value. Better check that these actually, the cable goes up them. I think they've got a bit of rubbery stuff in there, which is good, so this might sort of seal up pretty well. It's got a little bit of a hole, but that is a nice tight fit actually. So the main thing I've got to remember is... yeah, that's the other bit, so that's just the cable clamping end. I need a hole, drill a hole that big in the... Well, I can take that to see. So what I've got here, is that a 10mm drill? Probably can't read it anymore. I think it is a 10mm, so it's a bit bigger than that. But that with a bit of a wobble around will probably drill it out to the size I want. Do they actually tell you on these things what they are? No, Tech Brands by Electus Distribution. Oh, wait up, here we go. Cable gland 3 to 6.5mm IP68. That's all it really says. Okay, back on this battery box, I'll just tape these batteries together so that at least can't move around relative to each other. Just use a bit of this black duct tape. And then I do have some old foam here, might do to pack them in there. It's probably enough once, but I'll go around twice just to make it solid. And the other thing I was thinking is I might add a fuse to this. I might just put it in this little link here, so that at least we do have some protection, just in case, because otherwise it could be a bushfire hazard risk if something chews on the wires and they short out or something starts sparking. I think a 10 ampere should be good for this. Just haven't looked at these actually fit in those. They should probably fit in those type of... no, they don't. You probably could squeeze them a bit tighter and get a fuse to stay in there, I guess. Just wonder if I just cut this and crimp a couple of those things on. Then you got the problem of, are they going to short out next to each other? Going to go close. Or do I have some better crimp connectors? I think they're all the same. Actually, that one's nice and tight on there. So these blue ones seem to be a bit tighter for some reason. I do like the idea of using connectors like that, because then anyone can repair them. Might just have to put some heat shrink over the thing there, but if I had a fuse like that just on the ends of this wire, then that'll basically disconnect the batteries. If something goes wrong, probably best, like I say, we don't really want to put a fire hazard out there. But since this is a separate box with its own cable and that, there always a risk something will chew on it, or some other damage will occur somehow with wild animals running around and pets as well. You just don't know. So I think for safety's sake, for the safety of the batteries and stuff, as well as reducing any potential fire hazard, best thing, I think 10 amps should be plenty for this thing. I'm not sure exactly what it pulls or how much goes into it when it's charging and that, but it can't be anywhere near that high. Probably half of that would do, but I only really want it to blow in bad situations, like a short right across the batteries or something. I'm sure the box itself will have the controller thing with the solar panel and all that connections should have its own fusing, but the point is we've got to get from this box up to that, across the ground and up in the air sort of thing. So I think it's probably best to do that, and we'll get some big heat shrink. Oh, can I use a bit of this? A bit of this fiberglass sheathing stuff might do, but the problem is that stuff can move. It's a reasonable fit, but might be better to just heat shrink one half of it. I don't like cutting that stuff much. Just so there's no chance that the actual fuse will end up bypassed. Not much point having a fuse there if the two terminals can touch next to it. And basically short it out, in which case it can be blown and it won't do any good. Probably should get the hot air gun out for this. It's quite a big bit of heat shrink, but I think that's, you know, already it's small enough that it should do the job. There, at least that's safe then. Guess the other thing I should, well, that doesn't matter, that doesn't have polarity. I probably should mark the cables with some colour coding, but I'm happy with that. They're held together, that's not going to go anywhere. Make sure they're on nice and tight, we don't want any loose connections. The other thing I guess I can do is stick a spare fuse in there for them. And the other big hassle is trying to get this to stay in place. I can go that way as well, I guess. So the lid we got. Yeah, the connections can go either way. It's probably better that way actually. Where's me Sharpie? Let's colour this thing black, I think. We don't want people hooking things up the wrong way. Because again, you've got to assume someone else is going to fiddle with this at some point. And you're not going to be the only person working on it in its lifetime. Probably didn't put that on there. So that's the negative, that's the positive. Should have a voltage come up here, 25.8, still nice and high because it's only been sitting there a couple of days anyway and it hasn't been used. So the question is, can I jam something in? Yeah, we want to protect it from those screws. All I've got a bit is an old chair cushion, which might have to do for now. But ideally, I want something that doesn't absorb moisture. I think would be better. Not that it really matters down in where the batteries are, but they need those doubling up even. They're not good solid foam like I would like. Yeah, that's better. That might even be enough, just jamming it. Having something that holds it tight, it's not going to go anywhere then. That's not going to go sideways either, I don't think. But I will get them to keep an eye on this and see if it does get any issues with water in it. Make sure they're on nicely and tight. That's good. I think we've basically finished it. All I've got to do is go up there, drill a hole in the original box and run the cable from this to that. Put a little blend on there, shove the wire through. That cable I made. And I'll just double check we've got the output the right way around. Double check, triple check before we blow any of their gear up. 25 volts. It's right there, yeah, the red wire's there, so it should all be fine. 25 volts on the red wire with the positive, beautiful. So I'm pretty well right, I'll give them a yell and go up. I may be able to get some footage of hooking up, but it's not going to be anything very exciting. Like I say, just opening the other box up, removing the batteries, and yeah, drilling a hole for this gland, poking the wire in, and then I've just got to decide whether I use these crimp things, or the other option is, yeah, like a little chocky block thing like this. I think we'll put one of those in there, is probably the best. Cut the original battery wires, and possibly I can leave them in place, but just tape them up or something, because I kind of want to leave the unit as original as possible, so that, you know, if it ever has to be put back or anything, you haven't completely changed the thing. That's how I like to do things, just so that everything can go back to normal. If for whatever reason this doesn't work out or something, it's easy enough to put the old batteries back in there, and you haven't completely damaged the wiring harness or anything, even though it's easy enough to put a couple of spade terminals back in. The other option is just, yeah, cut into the wires with this, hook my wires into it, and then I'll just leave the other wires taped up in there somewhere, and someone can rejoin them into this block if they ever need to. It'll probably never happen, but like I say, I like to leave things kind of so they can be put back if possible, if, you know, assuming that you may not be the person to go there. So if you leave all the bits available, someone can easily, even the owner, can put it back the way it was. If for any reason this thing needs to be repaired or have something taken away for some reason, pretty unlikely. But anyway, we'll see what I can do on the box itself, and I may get some footage, I may not. Okay, so this is actually a second battery box I bought, because we decided, since it actually had better batteries in the system than we thought, I think the owner's brother or whoever installed it actually upgraded them at some point. So we decided to get a second battery box and put them to use. So I basically modded this one across the same way. It turned out that Kenner gate opener just had two boxes on it. One at the gate that runs the actuator, and that picks up like your remote signals. And then there was another box next to the solar panel which just had one of those solar regulators and the batteries in it. So all I had to do was actually pull the old batteries out, which are now in here. Went the wrong way around. It basically had these two leads on the old batteries. These are actually 12 ampere hour or something, and they just went into a terminal block. So I just hooked my wire into a terminal block, the one with the what's the name connector on it, whose name I can never remember, Anderson. So I just hooked the Anderson lead into that solar charger where the old batteries were. Nice and simple. Put that little weather sealing, weather sealing gland like this in there. Just drilled a hole in the box, nice and simple, and that worked perfectly fine. Just set the box on the ground next to it. They're going to put a little cover over it, I think, so just more to stop people seeing it and wanting to pinch it than more than anything else, since it's right near the road and pretty visible. And we just set up there, they had besides the remote, like on your key chain type remotes, they also had a keypad combination lock one, so they could give the combo to like power companies and stuff who have to come and read the meters, and that wasn't working, so I also helped them set that up. I forget what series of remote, well, box receiver box it was, but they had a manual there for the type with an LED display in it, but it didn't have that. But it just turned out you had to press, there was just one button on the circuit board, like for a learning thing, and you just press that and then quickly keyed in, I think, the old code, and possibly was there a hash key at the end of it or something, and then the new code, and then hash or whatever it was again. You just had to really quickly put it in with no delays, and it basically learned. We reprogrammed the keypad from the, I think it was 6/8 or something it came with originally. That was like the factory default. First you had to press a button in the other box to learn it, so it synchronized with that. It did tell you that was basically the same as doing it with one of the handheld remotes, I think. And once you'd done that, yeah, you'd punch in your factory code and plus whatever the key is to enter that you normally use. Then you quickly or immediately punch in the new code you want to change it to, followed by that same key, and that worked. It basically, once we got the woman to actually punch it in quickly, and remember all those little keys she had to press, and once she got a whole sequence in nice and quick without any gaps or anything, without delaying between pressing the hash and then pressing the new number, that sort of thing, it basically learned that. So we swapped that over as well. There was something wrong with the old one, and even the guy that installed it couldn't get it to work or something, so I said, while I'm there, I might as well help you with that. And yeah, so we decided to use, since I was expecting a couple of 4 ampere hour batteries from what they're saying, and it turned out to have these 12s, which are even bigger than the ones I put in the other box. So I've added a fuse on this as well. I think I end up doing, because these are a bit longer wires, I just cut the original wire they had, so I heat shrunk both of them because I thought that potentially could move, is long enough to move around and touch one of the other terminals. I thought it's best to have a fuse. Same thing, I taped them together, put a bit of foam in there, and that should do the job. So these are quite a good little thing. I did get a catalogue when I was at Jaycar too, and they actually have them listed in there for about $130 or something, whereas you go in the shop and they're $69.95 or whatever it was, about 70. So that price there, not a bad unit. We just got to see how it goes with possible water ingress. We'll soon know after the rain. We just had it pour down for like 24 hours. So I'll have to see if she might want to check it. I reckon that other one's getting fairly flat, so they'll want this one back. So hopefully she'll drop in and pick this up. This one's only down to, I think, 16 volts. Yeah, still sitting around 16 volts. So these batteries, I think, basically weren't working very well once I got down to that voltage. But the other one's fully charged. Yeah, they had it running beautifully. And yeah, I did have a look on eBay. You can actually get the systems even cheaper than what they had. I'm thinking of possibly getting one for our gate, but just without any solar panel or anything. There's no point. I can actually run a 24 volt rail, like power supply. Probably have to have something slightly higher than that because of the voltage drop in the cable, but I might just run it down the fence line, down the driveway, and actually get one myself. And I don't think I'll worry about like the security thing. I'll just get a couple of remotes. I think there's a system you can get with a 200 meter range remote or something, so you could basically open it from the house. And I'm just thinking of putting maybe just manual switches there so someone can pull up at the gate, press the switch, gate will open, they drive through, it automatically shuts. I think you can set it from up to 99 seconds, I think, so you can have it shut a bit quicker than that. Anything up to 99 seconds, it'll close itself, and then you can just have a switch on the inside of the gate as well, which I think a lot of systems do have, so you can activate them from inside manually. And that's about all. They do have the actual actuator has some sort of key fitting. You can put a mechanical key in if the power's completely off and nothing's going to run it. That is one reason, I guess, to have the batteries. The good thing about having the batteries is, yeah, you should operate when the power's off, which does happen a bit where I am because we're down a really dodgy, well, the power line comes down a dodgy road with lots of trees around it that tends to drop things on it when it's any sort of stormy or bad weather. And the other thing is they also obviously give a bit more current. If you've got a long cable with the 24 volts, there's a possibility that once it pulls 2 or 3 amps or whatever to operate the actuator, you're going to get even more voltage drop, so you're going to have to be careful with that. Whereas if you've got these local batteries, that gives tons of current to start the motor up and all that sort of thing. So it's possibly another reason they like to use batteries on those systems, but I'm thinking of trying it without batteries at all. But I'll still have like a 50 metre runner cable or something like that, maybe not quite that much, but getting there. At least sort of 30, 40 metres I would think. So I'll have to use fairly large cable or just, yeah, boost the voltage. You know, probably be a few volts above 24 volts at one end, at the power point end, and then just, yeah, so it sits at around 24 volts when it gets to that unit and doesn't drop too much under load when the actual actuator's running. I'm not sure, I didn't take much notice of the board in that Kenner one, but there are other, I think the Kenner one's also sold under a different brand on eBay, and there are other systems from different manufacturers, all pretty much the same thing. So it'd be interesting to try it out and just see if they've got a voltage regulator on the board or whatever. Obviously you can put more than 24 volts in there, I would think. But the one these people had as well was made for running off a power pack or using the power pack to charge the batteries. I'm not sure if it would run off it directly, probably would. But they were just too far away. They'd be, yeah, easy 100 metres or something away from the house and garage to the actual gate. So not practical for them. But anyway, that seems to have got it all worked out. So thanks for watching.